Okay, we good? We got everybody? We'll get started. So good evening for the meeting for December 8th. Okay, we good? We got everybody? I think we got everybody. We'll get started. So good evening for the meeting for December 8th. Good, we got everybody? I think we got everybody. I think we're having a problem with this. Are you getting a repeat?
Yeah.
For the meeting for December 8th.
Do you have it on at yours? Is it picking yours up again?
Yeah, it must be. It must be. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I shut it down because I don't want to have to hear it with the echo and the delay. So we'll start off. So we'll start off with the staffing for update on department activities. So I don't want to paint a picture of doom and gloom, but currently right now we have 3 openings. So we have 3 vacancies right now. I have 3 sergeants retiring at the end of December. So that will be 6 openings. And then I have a lieutenant who's going to be retiring at the end of January, and it could be another officer within a month or so after that. So, you know, within the next couple months, we could be down or will be down 8 officers. So I would say our staffing levels are critical. And as you probably heard me say the last time, it took us over a year to fill 1 position. So with 8 positions, it's going to be very difficult. So we're doing the best we can to try to fill the vacancies. The last 10 officers that we've hired, 7 of them have been certified officers. So we're trying to get certified officers with a sign-on bonus of $5,000. And I don't know if anybody's read the newspaper or in the media. Oakland Police Department out in California, they're actually offering a $50,000 sign-on bonus because they're just so shorthanded. They're not able to get recruits. And again, it's in the profession. It's just very difficult. But being 8 officers down here in a department where there's 52 officers, it's going to be extremely difficult. So we'll fold into patrol. Our priorities will remain patrol and responding to those calls for service. But unfortunately, the crime is going up, calls are going up, but yet our staffing is going down, and we just can't keep up. And again, it's not just us; it's everyone. I was at with a number of chiefs last week, and everybody has the same problem. It's just there's nobody getting into the profession, and it's going to take another generation to try to get people back into the profession. So we're going to be in a very difficult period, but we'll do the best we can with what we have. But it is going to be challenging. There's no other way. It's just that's where we are right now. So we'll do the best we can with what we have.
I was going to ask, how could we help?
You know, talk up the profession. You know, that's where we are. It's just there's just nobody that are interested in doing the job anymore. It's just, so whatever you can do to talk up the profession, it is a very noble profession. It's been very good to me. It's been very fulfilling. Has it been challenging? Has it been difficult? You know, it has, but you know, it's just, there's just nobody getting into the profession. And when that happens, you know, as people retire and you can't replace them, you know, that puts a huge burden on the department. And, you know, we're ordering in officers left and right. They're getting tired. Their patience level is wearing. I'm afraid of getting citizen complaints because their patience is wearing because of the amount of order-ins they're getting and the time that they're spending out on the road. You know, there's fatigue. So there's a lot of factors that come into play that people just don't realize. And like I said, the crime is going up. The calls for service aren't going down, but yet our staffing. So, you know, we'll do the best we can with what we have, but it's not going to be easy. But I think we need to, the media, our elected officials, it's a good profession to get into, and that's, we got to drive people into the profession. I mean, when I grew up, you know, always wanting to be a police officer, and we just don't see that now. That passion for the job isn't there anymore. It's you know, more a job than anything else. You want those people that really want to be police officers, really want to help the community, but we're just not seeing it. It's just because they're not there. So we got to find a way to turn that around and get good people into the profession. And the only way we're going to do that is, you know, encourage people. It's a good job. And again, it's going to take a long time. You know, after George Floyd and everything that came about from that, and I saw it here, you know, after the demonstration that we had up at the center of town, and the taunting, you know, some of the signs, some of the things that were said to the officers, there was a big difference before that and then after that. You know, standing there myself, trying to speak to the crowd, and the way I was treated, and, you know, what the officers witnessed, you know, their spirit has been broken, and the enthusiasm isn't there like it once was. And we got to find a way to rebuild that and get that back. And along the way, encourage others to get into the profession. But it's not going to be easy. It's just, you know, it's just where we are right now. And, you know, anything that you can do, you know, to encourage folks to get into the profession, more so the Newington Police Department, because I'll be a little selfish here. You know, and everybody's fighting for the small group of officers that are out there. You know, there's only a small group that are really, really good, and everybody's fighting for them. And you try to fast track them through the process to get them committed to the department. So, I mean, that's what we're doing now. And, you know, thank God for certified officers. Like I said, the last 10 we've hired, 7 of which have been certified. And if we didn't hire them, I don't know where we would be. And we have one officer now, a female officer, that's with another agency that's just about done with her background, has her medical left. So once that's done and the drug screen is done, we'll bring her in for a final interview for hire. But that's all we have in the pipeline now. We have a few others, but we have some certified that applied. But I can tell you, just because you're certified doesn't mean you're going to get hired here, because I passed on a number of certified officers that I didn't think were a good fit for the department. So that's kind of where we are, but we'll do the best we can with what we have. And, you know, it is what it is. You do the best you can to try to get good people, but I'm not going to sacrifice our standards. It's just, I can't do it, and I'll run with the vacancy before I start sacrificing the standards that we have. It's just a little harder trying to find those folks that are out there. Any questions on the staffing? Calls for service. Like I said, crime is up. I mean, burglaries are up. We've had 163 this year. Same period last year, we had 63. So we're up over 100 compared to last year. Domestics, you know, with COVID, they're down. We had so far this year 329. Last year we had 361. Now, this data is, it ends November 30th. So that's up to November 30th. People in crisis, 222 this year, last year, 171. So that's up. And I'll talk a little more about that with the mobile crisis team. So I'll get into that a little more that we've been working on. Larcenies, those are primarily the shopliftings. We had 537. Last year we had 620, so those are down. Larcenies are down. Motor vehicle theft, those are the car breaks. 403 compared to last year, 278. So they're up substantially compared to last year. And last year was a bad year. This year will be even worse. Fatals. Last year we didn't have any fatal accidents at this time. This year we've had 2. So those are up. Pistol permits. 461 compared to last year, 150. So, I mean, we are processing pistol permits. I've never seen anything like it. Again, I have one officer and one records clerk. That's all they do is process pistol permits.
Hey, Chief,
Yes.
just curious. I was working a session night and I turned on TV and I happened to catch you on TV doing a hearing. How often are you in those hearings?
Those are for denials.
Yeah.
Maybe that's if the applicant wants to contest it. So if they want to appeal my decision, so if I do a denial and they want to take it before the Firearms Review Board, they can do that. So I testify a couple times a year, but I deny more than that. So these are people that received a denial and they want to take their chance in front of the Firearms Review Board.
Okay, so that's just appeals. Okay.
Yeah, that's just an appeal. All denials don't go before the board. The only denials that go before the board are those that choose to.
Okay. I just happened to turn it on and there you were.
Yeah, there I was. Yeah.
And Chief, a question regarding the surge in the crime are we consistent with the towns and this, in Hartford and everybody
Hartford
around us? Or?
Yeah, Hartford region. And I'll get a little bit more, talk a little bit more about the car thefts in the Greater Hartford Task Force that was put together that are doing unbelievable work.
Okay, great.
They're doing great work. Robberies, we've had 11. Last year at this time, we had 8. Sexual assaults, 27. Last year at this time, we had 16. So up substantially. Stolen cars, 61. Last year at this time, we had 80. So they're down. Traffic stop attempts, those are times when the officers try to stop a car, whether it's a stolen car or a car involved in a crime. Since January, I started tracking it because I wanted to get a better idea how often cars are taken off on the officers. Since November, end of November, we've had 70 cars that have taken off on officers. And, again, we don't pursue unless it's a serious felony. So it could be, burglary suspects, could be a stolen car. If they take off, we're not going to go after them. It's got to be a serious felony with a weapon or if somebody's seriously injured. So, the word's out. All you got to do is run from the cops and they're not going to chase you. And, we're seeing that. So this is the first year we started tracking it. So we'll get a better idea next year. We'll have something to compare it with, see if it goes up. And then arrests. We've had 637 arrests so far this year. So it's about the same that we had last year. So any questions on the calls for service? Good. department activities. Really not doing much. We had Stuff a Cruiser, which was unbelievable. The amount of people that donated. We filled one of our rapid deployment vehicles to the brim. So all those toys were for Newington residents through Human Services. So that's something we do every year. Last year we didn't do it. We did gift cards, but this year we were able to do it. So a lot of generous people this year. We had it at Walmart. They were there from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., collected a lot of toys. So that was great. So Human Services can provide, kids with, a toy on Christmas morning or how many toys they decide to give them. But there were bikes. It was really nice to see. So there's still a lot of generous people out there. So it was good. And like I said, we do it every year, but we weren't able to do it last year because of COVID. But so it was nice doing it and actually seeing, all the toys that are going to be handed out as opposed to a gift card. So it was nice. It worked out great.
Hey, Chief, I was able to get there at the last minute. I mean, they literally had stuff on the bumpers. I mean,
Yeah.
it was packed.
Yeah. And it was nice because it was the same night as did anybody make it to the center for the lighting? Were you
I did
there?
not make
Yeah.
I didn't make it to the center,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. How was it, Todd? Was it good?
Yeah, it was great.
It was
Yeah,
good.
excellent.
Yeah.
That's
So it was
great.
nice, having that during the day and then having, the night of lights in the center during the evening. So it kind of got me in the mood of Christmas. I
That's right.
drove through and just kind of kept an eye. I didn't participate, but driving through there, it was nice. And then, seeing them unload the toys over at the town hall. So it definitely got me in the spirit. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, it was sad I missed the Stuff a Cruiser, or like I didn't realize it was the same day.
Yeah. So it worked out good. So all good. Okay, police accountability, bill mandates and training update. So we just had to train all the officers in the new policy from the state for use of force, deadly use of force. So part of the police accountability bill was to strengthen the deadly force, use of force policy, and that was written by Post, and that's the Police Officer Standard Training Council, and that's basically they govern police recruit training, police training. So they wrote a statewide policy that is more restrictive for officers when it comes to using force. So that policy goes into effect January 1st. And then all the officers have to be trained by December 31st, 2020. And I'm not trying to be cynical. To me, it's the opposite. I don't know how you implement a policy before all the officers are trained on it. Typically, you train everybody, then you issue the policy. So what we did here is we've already trained everybody. So we have a whole nother year to train our officers. We've already done it. So we completed the training. Our officers have been trained and the policy will go into effect on January 1st and we are good to go. So we're not going to issue the policy and then try to train people a year after that policy has been implemented. It makes no sense to me. So like I said, we know what the policy is. We got everybody trained. And then within the next week or so, that policy goes into effect and we are done. We are compliant with the accountability bill and the new guidelines for use of force and deadly use of force. So that's finished.
Chief, do you have any idea? I'm so glad that, you took the proactive stance, but what about a department where, they're staggering their training through the year, but what if there's an officer who hasn't been trained and then in violation or whatever of this new
You're
policy.
you're spot on, Gail. So so basically, the policy are the guidelines. That's what those are the standards that you're being held to. So how do you hold somebody to those standards when you haven't trained them? So January 1st, that policy goes into effect. Every police officer is held to those standards. How are you going to hold them to those standards when they haven't been trained? So in my mind, you have to train them first on the standards and then implement the policy and hold them to those standards. To me, they did it backwards. So I recognized it and met with our training cadre, and I was just like, you got to train them first and then implement the policy. So that's what we did. We got everybody trained, and now that policy will go into effect within the next week or so. It will go into effect before the January 1st deadline, because that's when it has to go in. But since we have everybody trained, we're good to go. We're compliant, and officers will be held to those standards. Now, I don't know how you hold officers to those standards when you haven't even trained them yet, but that's somebody else's problem, not my
Well,
problem.
thank you for being, aware and astute to that.
So, we're good with it. So,
What, Chief, what are the differences from what it was to what it is now?
it's more of a strict, you can't put yourself, you can't create a deadly use of force situation. So your tactics can't be so that you put yourself in a position to having to use deadly force. We'll get the new policy posted on the website, so you'll be able to see it. It talks about shooting at cars. So there's more restrictive language in the new policy than the previous policy.
Is it, will it just be the policy, or is there a way to look at it in comparison to what it was? I mean, just based on what you were saying, was it okay to shoot at when you say shoot at a car, I'm imagining a high-speed chase and out of a movie or something like that. That's not what you meant, but
our policy's been more restrictive.
okay.
We've never allowed warning shots. We've never allowed shooting at a moving vehicle unless the car is trying to run you down.
Yeah.
But even that, the language is in the new policy. It says you have to make an effort to get out of the way, which I'm getting out of the way. You don't got to tell me to get out of the way. I'm getting out of the way. So yeah, there's some language in there that's different. So that's like I said, we're compliant. We're done. So I'm happy with that. Some of the other things, the drug testing, we're compliant with that. Anytime a new officer gets certified or recertified, I should say, every 3 years you get recertified as a police officer. You have to go through your training, your research training. So once you complete your research training, you have to get a drug screen in order to get recertified. So we've sent our officers for that. We're compliant. We're compliant with the psych screens from the accountability bill. We've done that. A quarter of the department has been screened, including myself. So we'll have another group next year that goes through. So we're complying with that. We have a neat training platform. It's called Police One, where we can actually load training onto the platform, and officers go into the platform and they review the training. They see the PowerPoint. We're able to track it. They get credit for it. They get a certificate for it. So one of the good things that came out of COVID with police training is, the online training and this new training platform that we have to augment our in-service training. So it's worked out real well. So, and the good part of it too is we're able to track it.
That's excellent.
Any
Chief, is there
questions?
any more coming out of that bill that's in the future or no?
You know, I don't know. I know there's some things that they may change. I don't know. You know, we'll keep track of it. But you know, the big thing is the body cams. We've signed with WatchGuard. We're waiting for the delivery of our body cams. That's all done. So we have to have those up and running by July 1st, which we'll meet that deadline. Like I said, I mean, it's signed. We're just waiting for delivery. But then we have to buy an additional in-car cameras because we only have 12. So, and it's just interesting. I was at a meeting today and with the department, we're talking about issuing cars to every officer, take-home cars. And it just dawned on me now. I mean, obviously you have to buy more cars. Those are more in-car cameras too that are going to have to come with it to meet the mandate. So I'm not sure how that would work. But we have 12 in-car cameras. We're going to have to go up, purchase another 8, you know, for all our cars. So our in-car cameras are starting to reach their service life. So we'll go with WatchGuard in-car cameras, and it will be a whole, you know, body cam in-car camera unit. So it'll work out well.
And Chief, so having the cars, the officers take the cars home, is that so that they can respond quicker or have the car with them, or just ease of use?
There's studies that show, some of it's a recruitment tool too.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends
tool.
that are chauffeurs, and it's a huge deal if they can take the car home
But the
with
cars
them.
get taken care of better.
Absolutely.
They last longer.
Okay.
So there's a lot of benefits in the way of cost.
Yeah, that is a perk.
They're not getting personal use. I mean, they're
Right,
taking
right.
it to and from.
Right.
And, you know, if they get called in,
It's nice. They can immediately
Right.
go as opposed to
Right.
get a car and come back.
exactly,
So
and all their equipment is there. So,
perfect. Nice.
but it's the
Expense.
startup cost is expensive.
Yep.
But then, you know, talking about the in-car cameras, I'm like, well, you know, if you have a fleet of 35 cars for take home, that's a fleet of 35 in-car cameras. Because the accountability bill says if it's a patrol vehicle, it's got to have a camera.
Gotcha.
So, any questions on that? The mobile crisis team. So one of the things from the accountability bill was to look at how social workers can be included in policing in terms of taking some of the burden away for people that are in crisis. And I've been working with Carol LeBrecq, who's the director of our human services, as well as the Central Health District. And we've been going back and forth looking at how to create a mobile crisis team. Now, this isn't a team that would ride with police officers. This is a team that we could call in to assist us when the situation is stable, or in some cases, take the call instead of the police if it's relatively minor. Why burden the police when you can have a mobile crisis team go in and deal with the situation rather than tie up police officers? So this is in the early stages. We're trying to imagine how it would work, you know, the funding, who would do what. So we're in a very preliminary stages of trying to work on this. So I'll give you some more information as it comes along. But you know, it's something. There was on 60 Minutes. There was something a couple weeks ago, and mental illness and social workers. And, over the years, the police have become all things to all people. And this is one of the burdens that we have. So, I mean, if we're able to provide a better service with these units, I'm all for it right now. If we have a situation, it's basically during business hours. And after business hours, we're not able to bring them in because they're not staffed. So this is something that would be staffed 24/7. So I think it's a good idea. Like I said, they're not going to be riding with the police officers. They would be called in, and in some cases, the call would be transferred to that unit for them to take them and respond to. So we'll
Chief-
say, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember within the past week, there was an article in the Hartford Courant about and I don't know whether it was Hartford or another area town, which is, I mean, doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if the area towns are kind of like working together, I mean, isn't it kind of redundant if every town tries to come up with,
But that's a
resolving
great,
their own issues and whatever?
that's a great point. And I could tell you it right now, it's the Central Health District. So that's Newington, Weathersfield, Rocky Hill.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would
Maybe that
be,
was what I saw.
it would be a collaborative effort there.
Oh, okay, that's what yeah, you're right. I
Yeah.
think it was the CHD.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, Carol and I have been talking for a little bit. And then Ann Hartman from the Central Health District. So we've had a couple meetings and they've been pretty good at trying to, envision how this would work and what it would look like. So I could tell you the town manager's on board. I've had conversations with him and he actually reached out to me. I hadn't told him that we were doing this. And he saw the piece on 60 Minutes and actually called me and was, like, this is something we should consider. And I said, we are. And so he's on board. So, a lot of it's going to boil down to money. If there's seed money out there, COVID money, but, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I don't have to send officers to people that are in a crisis. I would much rather prefer that, although, we have a lot of training. We have a number of officers trained in crisis intervention, which is good. But there's going to be times when the officers are going to have to respond when there's violence or somebody has a weapon or a threat of a weapon. But there's other cases that are low level that we don't have to get involved in. When the 14-year-old kid is giving mom and dad a hard time, and these are calls that we go on. When the 14-year-old kid is giving mom and dad a hard time because he doesn't want to go to school, guess who gets called? We do. And guess who goes to the house? A police officer. So that's a call I really don't want to send an officer to. That would be better handled by a mobile crisis team than a police officer going there and trying to convince the kid to go to school. So there is definitely a place for it, for sure. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a great concept that you have the ball rolling on so far. So it's the 3 towns that would be funding it at this point. Also,
it's the Central Health District. So they would kind of like, and then one of the things is to try to get a hospital that would sponsor the unit that has the facilities. So whether it's, the Hospital of Central Connecticut or where else, like Project Hope for the opioids, we have a sponsor hospital. So it's the Hospital of Central Connecticut sponsors us.
Mhm.
So we deal with them. So that would be kind of like an offshoot. It would be nice to have a sponsoring hospital for this mobile crisis team. So these are all things that are in the works, and but it's good to start off with and build from that. So like I said, it's something we're working on.
It's exciting.
Car brake update, as I said, the car brakes are up. We're seeing cars where windows are getting smashed out. So, you can't blame the car owners when they're smashing the windows out. But I think the last thing I talked about, the Hartford region putting together a task force. That task force has been infected with seed money from the Office of Policy and Management. We got the seed money too. That unit is doing great work. They are making arrests, recovering cars. So kudos to them. They're really doing a lot of great work. But once the money runs out, it runs out. I don't know if the team's going to stay together, but the money has to be used by the end of December. We've been using it. Our detectives have been going over there, but they are doing awesome work. They're doing a great job, and I believe that they are making a difference. Even with the numbers up as they are making arrests. I don't know how they're being adjudicated, but they are definitely getting the offenders off the street, preventing car thefts, recovering cars. So they're doing great work. Pat, you're on mute.
Did you give a figure for car break-ins?
Yeah, it was, just a minute here.
I got car theft.
Well, yeah, it's car break-in. So 403. Last year at this time was 278.
Okay, thanks.
Any questions? Okay, good. Okay, the license plate reader and camera system. So I don't know if you know Hartford, they have their C4 system. So they have cameras throughout the city, license plate readers. They have solved so many crimes from that system. So what we're looking at is adding to it in Newington. So we would put, there's about 11 or 12 locations that we want to put license plate readers and cameras. Been working on this for the last several months. It comes to about $300,000. We're looking at using COVID relief money for that. So that's in the works. So we would put cameras on the Berlin Turnpike, Cedar Street, because those are the two main roads where we get the most activity. So I'll keep you informed in that, but it would work off Hartford system. We've had, let's see, 6 shootings in the last month and a half, where the system probably would have picked up those cars. So that's something we want to add. But like I said, it's about $300,000, and then it may be about $30,000 a year for the software and upgrades and maintenance. But we're looking at using the COVID relief money for that because the crime is going up. So that would definitely be a benefit. But it's upstairs in finance. We're waiting to see. So I'm hopeful with that. But like I said, we've been working on that for the last several months. So I'll keep you informed as we move forward. Does anybody have any questions? Did anybody know what that is or need more?
Yeah, just a question. You said it'll work off of Hartford. So if I'm picked up by the camera for some reason, kind of like I didn't pay my registration because I forgot. No.
No. This is correct. So
will it then go to Hartford? Like they'll be notified, or will you guys be notified?
This is for us to go back to.
Okay.
So, So to give you an example.
Yeah.
We had the shooting up at the Grantmore the other night.
Yeah.
Now that vehicle left northbound, and if it went up, one of the locations is that we want to put a camera is Route 5 in Maine. We would have picked up the car. So, and then if we had it on Cedar Street. So we
Got it.
eventually found the car, the shooter. We didn't find the shooter. We found the car that the shooter used. But we could go into the system to see if that car went through.
Oh, okay, I get it. Got it.
Then you get a picture of the car, you get the license plate. So it's helpful for solving crimes.
Great.
But yeah, we're not going to be like on there looking for unregistered cars.
For Robin being delinquent because she
Yeah.
swore she paid it.
Now, the license plate readers we had on the cruisers would do that.
There we go.
So if the officer was parked on the Berlin Turnpike and had the license plate reader, he would get a ding, activation that the car was unregistered.
Gotcha.
That we're not. So it's for us to go back in and search to see what we could
Gotcha.
find. Or put
Thanks.
parameters in there. The suspect vehicle was a white Mercedes. So you put the
Oh, okay.
parameters in there and it'll show you, white Mercedes. The times, pictures. So it's a good tool for solving crimes after they happen.
I think that's fantastic as an addition, especially when we're all in the area looking to be down some officers. So I think
Right.
that's
It's just another
huge.
tool in our
Yeah.
toolbox.
Yep.
Technology is very helpful. Nothing replaces the officer in a car.
Agree.
Nothing does.
Agree.
No technology will change that. But this gives us another way to try to solve crimes and, reduce the crime rate.
Chief, since, regarding the cost, since you're talking, particularly the Berlin Turnpike and also, Cedar Street, these are state roads. They're not
Right.
town roads. Is there any way that, it seems like the state should be contributing to some of the funding of this, because it's not crime necessarily committed by Newington residents. We're a victim of our location, and particularly on the Berlin Turnpike. And it seems like this type of technology, the state should kick in a little bit.
Well, in essence, they are with the COVID money. And with that, we invest, they're state roads, but we also investigate accidents. We make an arrest. We're responsible for patrolling those roads because they're within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, I guess, but I always, question that too, because in the past, someone told me in the past, like the state police used to patrol a bit of the turnpike.
Many years ago, like in the 50s. And yeah, it was actually in the 50s. The state police patrolled the Berlin Turnpike. And then they turned it over to the Newington police back in the 60s.
Okay, I
Well,
really somehow or other, we've got to work with our state legislators to get, I think we need either some kind of financial or
Oh, absolutely,
personnel support.
absolutely. But the money to fund it is COVID money, which is being released by the state. So I'm sure they can say, well, it's not your money, it's the state money, and essentially it is.
But I'm sure there's other things you could use with the $300,000 for in your own department rather than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You had a choice. Okay.
So,
Chief, are
Go ahead,
any
John.
other towns around us doing the same thing?
Well, Weathersfield has cameras. Rocky Hill wants to go to them. Weathersfield's had them for a while, but they're not operational. I know Rocky Hill wants to go with them. Us, I don't know about Berlin. I don't know.
So
about
if
Fred.
somebody left our town and went to another town, do we have access, or do we have to ask for that to see
We'd have
where
to-
the
if it
car
was
might have
built into-
traveled?
If it was built into the same system, we could access it, but if it's a
Yeah.
separate system,
Oh, it is.
then we
They're not
would
in
have to
Hartford?
ask.
Okay.
Yeah, but, yeah, it's a great tool. I know people are worried about, the government watching. But it solves crimes and it gets people, convicted. So it's very helpful.
Yeah. Was this brought up at a town council meeting? Or-
It was because the
Right?
town manager had said something that somebody had brought it up.
Yeah.
And, I said, yeah, it'd be great. I mean, we've been working on it. We were working on it before the COVID relief money was, available. And I had to get a whole nother quote because the quote that we got originally was beyond the 90 days. So we had to get another quote, but we've been working on it for a while. So now it's just, whether or not they can come up with the money. So
Yeah, I saw it. It was on Facebook, some of the groups, and there was mixed reactions, I'd say.
Yeah, I
some
mean, you're
people were very
gonna
for
get
it. Some
that.
people,
Yeah.
some people think government's going to track them, and some people were
And let me tell
for
you
it just
something.
because of the rising crime.
Listen to this meeting. I don't have the staffing to track you. It's just, yeah, and people, their imaginations run a little wild. We're not going to be doing that. This is a crime fighting tool. Track stolen cars. So we'll see. See how it pans out. All right. Let's see. Okay, let's see, public comment. Sue's got her hand raised. Let's see. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, first off, I want to say that, if Paul looks at his private messages, I sent him a very detailed description of the Board of Firearm Permit Examiners.
I saw it.
Right.
Thank you.
That's right. You got some institutional knowledge when it comes to that stuff.
You gave me a little 1,000-word light reading to do.
Yeah, it was 18 years, Chief.
That's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the reason I'm calling is I think the number one way that we should spend the COVID money is first on our police department, fire department, ambulance, and after that, let the town council decide.
Mhm.
But that's where I think the money should go first.
That's
And
good.
also I think, and when they're looking at the budget this year, I'm going to push for them to give you your full amount that you're requesting plus more. And then also I wanted to say thank you to you, your officers, your staff, and to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Same to you. Have a safe holiday.
Thank you.
Let's see, Sunrise Movement, Connecticut.
Hi, Chief. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
great. I'm good. How are you? This is Matthew Plord, 258.
Hey, Matt, I got a email from Mitch, and I got to give him a call. So
Oh, awesome. Oh, great.
Yeah. So I think I might have went to high school with your dad.
You know what? You might have. I think he's talked to me about you before. There's quite
Okay.
a possibility. He's popular guy. So I'm
Yep.
told.
Yep.
So-
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation if we can have it. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
logged into a different email account. That's why my name was a little
Oh,
off.
okay.
But
So, hey, Matt,
Please.
for the sake of the council, I know what you guys want to do. Maybe for the council members, you can just give a quick overview of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. I think it'd be nice if you're able to do that.
Sure. Yeah, if we're on the same page on things, I did have some specific questions and they get to a little bit of that. So I'll
Yep.
ask those and we'll see if we've got anything else left. But I know back in September, I have two questions first.
Yep.
First one is, I know back in September at the previous meeting, there was discussion of this race relations focus group, I believe it was
Yes.
called.
Yep.
And where it was left was that there was concern about COVID, as is, with so much, can't bring people into a room, and Zoom isn't the most adequate platform to do something like that. And where it was left was that this council was interested in starting to work on putting that together, and discussing what that would be used for, what it wanted to accomplish, who would be on it, and so on. And so I was hoping that there would be some update today at the meeting on that council. So I did just want to ask for if there's any progress as it relates to that focus group and any timeline for its implementation through this council.
We talked about doing it in the winter, and I really, if I have to, I would do it by Zoom. I really don't want to. With the uptick of COVID, I'm a little uneasy about putting a group of people in a room, and just we've had 4 officers here that are out because they've tested positive for COVID, some of which have been vaccinated. So it's breakthrough. So it's something that we really want to do. We were off to a really good start, and then COVID, but I really want to do it in person. I really don't want to do it on Zoom because I think it takes away from everything. So we'll watch, but if we're forced to do it on Zoom, we'll do it. We have somebody that's willing to facilitate the discussions in the focus group, who I think is outstanding, and he brings a lot of expertise
Great.
into the mix. So, and I haven't talked to him in a while. I need to get back to him, but I much prefer to do it in person. But if I'm forced to do it on Zoom, I'll do it. I just think it takes away, just like these meetings. I hate doing these meetings on Zoom. It just takes away from the communication. And so, but it's definitely, I can tell you that we're gonna do it. It's just a question of when. But if things don't turn around, then we'll do it on Zoom.
All right. I definitely understand that. And I hope that there's, planning happening, obviously prior to that time, when you'll recheck on how, COVID's
Yep.
going and whether or not we can have it, because obviously all of that planning can happen on Zoom, as difficult as it is. And so that was my first question. Thank you for that. The second question I had, this was also in relation to that September meeting. There was a discussion, I think, Chief, you brought it up, on concerns with, it being really difficult to determine impairment levels for folks using marijuana during traffic stops.
Yeah.
And, you needing specific drug professionals to do that, or specific specialized training to recognize that. So I did want to ask you, and you brought up the use of Police One Academy tonight, and I know that the department has used that quite a bit for a lot of stuff. Is there a training in that system, or one that can be added to that system that relates to that? Or if not, what other kinds of trainings are available, and what's the department doing to reach out to that kind of training?
Now, drug recognition expert, that is really, really advanced training.
Yeah.
I forget, it's 40 hours plus. It's not something that can be done on a platform. I think one of the trainings was out, I want to say somewhere out in the Midwest or Arizona.
Yeah.
There's very few drug recognition experts in the state because the training is it's advanced training. So it takes a lot of time and effort There's not a lot in the state, so, but even as a drug recognition expert, that testing occurs after the arrest has been made.
Sure.
So you need, with a DUI with alcohol, it's pretty easy to identify somebody under the influence with the road sobriety test, the odor on the breath, horizontal gaze, nystagmus, where you're able to establish your probable cause based on that, and maybe the driving too. With drugs, it's much more difficult, and you don't bring a drug recognition expert to the scene to establish your probable cause. You have to already establish it to make the arrest. It's after the arrest is when the drug recognition expert comes into play, where they test the individual. There's a number of tests that they issue to establish that that person is under the influence of a narcotics or a specific drug. So it's a little different process than a DUI for alcohol. So
Sure.
it's not that easy,
Of course.
but
Of course.
but
Well,
there's money. The state is giving money out. We don't have anybody trained in it.
Hmm.
But again, it boils down to staffing. It gets difficult when you got to send somebody away for 2 weeks, and it's hard. But it's something that with the legalization of marijuana that we're going to have to look at.
Yeah. Much more closely. Thank you. Yeah, those were my two questions, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to having that conversation at some point. And happy holidays to you.
Same to you.
Thank
Nice
you.
talking to you, Matt.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Sean?
Yeah, Sean Deere here.
Yep.
I'm just curious for the mobile crisis team, what counts as a crisis that they would go after? Are we talking like panic attacks, delusional behavior? What?
I'm sorry.
Just any mental health crisis? Or
I'm sorry, Sean, can you repeat that? There was kind of like echo. I couldn't really understand what you were saying.
I'm sorry. For the type of crisis that the mobile crisis team handles, are we talking any
Yep.
nonviolent mental health crisis, panic attacks, delusional behavior?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there would be a protocol put in place on what types of calls they would handle, with or without the police. And, so yeah, it would get broken down into, the type of call, the threat level. So definitely, yeah.
So if it escalates to like, I don't know, suicidal ideation, does that bring you guys in case there's a weapon?
Well, if there's information that there's a weapon involved or the person has access to weapons.
Okay.
But if not, then it may be a situation where, they can handle it. But, the rule of thumb, if there's a doubt, then we'll go, because we're not going to send two civilians into an uncertain situation. We will want to make sure that it's well established that there's no threat. And if there's any indication or that can't be ruled out, then the police would respond. But, again, if they respond and once they, make that assessment that it is safe, then they can leave and turn it over to the crisis workers.
Okay, that all makes sense. Thank you.
I don't have a name. I have last 3 digits. 766.
Hi. Hello. Hi. This is
How are you?
Nicole Cooney.
Hi, Nicole.
Good. How are you?
Good.
97 Howard Street. So my question was, is there a community service officer on staff? And I guess that's my first question.
We do have a community services officer. It's
Okay.
Jamie DeSimone, but I can tell you because of staffing, she's been pulled away from those duties.
Okay.
because she's
My-
covering dispatch. and
thought-
patrol.
My thought was in regard to like the public relations and outreach you were talking about, in terms of recruitment, what opportunities there are there because, if there's a person in that position, but I understand, yes, being taken away from those duties, that makes perfect sense. Just wondering if there could be some sort of, help there with that recruitment process. It's almost too bad. It's sort of funny as I was listening, I was thinking about how the Army recruits and how we're having this sort of shift in our culture, and perhaps that would sort of maybe come into play, in the future. There could be on a broader scale if other areas are facing these issues. I can't imagine that they wouldn't be.
Yeah, I know it. I know in the education field, because I have some knowledge, they're struggling for staffing too, especially support staff. So it's not just police. It's in education are having issues with staffing. So it's I don't know. It's really difficult for me to understand, having been somebody that the only thing I ever wanted to do was be a police officer. So somehow, some way, we got to try to get that back and instilled in our kids at a young age that it's a good profession, especially if you want to serve the public and help people. There's no better service. I can think of countless times I was involved in things that, little things that made a huge difference. It's the little things that you do every day that make a big difference in people's lives. And, some of it you don't realize until many years later when you see that person and they mention what you did for them. So it's a good profession. It's a noble profession. And I just think we got to find a way to try to lure more kids into that mindset of policing. I mean, when I grew up, the kids I hung out with, we all played sports, and you had some of us that wanted to be police officers, and some of them wanted to be firemen. And it's amazing that my friends who said they wanted to be police officers, not that, to be honest with you, there was more of them that wanted to be firemen that wanted to be police officers. My friends that wanted to be firemen, they became firemen. But then one of them became a police officer. So he did his 20 years as a fireman, and then he became a police officer. So he got the best of both worlds. So,
Chief,
Maybe we can get some kids inspired.
yes, somehow.
Like the fire trucks visit the schools when we get to that certain point, when there's availability and time, get them involved in more events as we're out of this COVID.
Yeah, and that's
the other
thing. COVID is really getting in the way. It really is. It really, I mean, there's things we want to do that we're just not able to do.
Could some of that COVID funding, extra funding, go toward those smaller things, toward those smaller events?
It could. It's just, do you want to put people together?
Right.
And that's the issue, is putting people together. And what I find is when people are in the same room together, that's when, I talked about, the demonstration up at Main and Cedar. After the demonstration was over, it's the conversations I had with people afterward that made a difference. Not on Zoom. It was face-to-face contact, and one of those contacts, I mean, we talk. We still talk today. We've gone out to lunch. We email each other, text each other, and that was somebody I didn't even know. And it was a conversation that occurred afterwards, and we became friends. So those are the things that you're not going to get, in a Zoom meeting.
100%.
Chief, to go off of what Nicole was talking about, is there space to have a volunteer help in assisting with some of the legwork that maybe someone like Jamie can't take care of?
Sure.
At this time.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. I mean, you folks are a great resource. You know, maybe we should tap into you more and, you know, use you. I mean, I know we use you for National Night Out, but we've canceled it.
Yeah.
And the last time we had it, I mean, you guys came out and assisted us. So I think we got it because, I mean, you raise a great point, Todd, because we are struggling with staffing that, you know, maybe you guys can, you know, bridge that gap. So absolutely.
Yeah, I'll shoot you an email and maybe we can further the conversation.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sue, go ahead. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, I had to unmute first. I was just thinking, you were talking about trying to get more people interested in being police officers, and I know you're really short on staff right now, so it's not going to happen, but the program that I went to, the Newington Citizens Police Academy,
Yes.
was amazing. And
Right.
it just opened my eyes so much. There were things that I never knew that you all were involved with. I mean, just the fact that, you know, accident reconstruction, you know, when you were looking at an accident and how you had to know trigonometry and all the rest of it. I mean,
Yep.
there were so many things that I learned during that, you know, short time, but I need a refresher. But on the other hand, you need more new people to be aware of exactly what is involved. And I just think that is a great program. And then also I remembered you had a high school program too, I
You got a
believe.
good memory. Yeah, we had the youth academy. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, we had some high school kids, some middle school kids. That was a lot of fun. I could tell that the officers that worked it had a great time. And they were
Yeah, I
great
think they're
kids.
the ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're the ones that you want to, if you
That's
get
the
all,
group you want to go to.
right, exactly.
It's the high school kids. Exactly. Middle school and high school. You know, plant that seed. You know, the SRO being there. You know, it's you know, you know, growing up, midget football, our coaches. You know, Dick Gable, Tom Bissetta, Fred Cassiopo, Dave Paul. They were all Newington police officers.
Correct. Yeah, and I mean, the Newington Citizen Police Academy was great.
Yeah.
So if you have your full staff and you have the money, yes, but first aim for the youth academy.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great way to appeal to younger people, get them at that point when they're starting to make the decisions, where they're going to college, if they're going to college, what they want to do with their.
But we didn't even have to fund it. Keeney Manufacturing funded the youth academy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe when we're done with Zoom, we can reach out to them again.
Well, Keeney Manufacturing isn't here anymore.
Yeah, I
closed.
know, but there's got to be other ones like.
You're right. Yeah, there's other
Yeah.
businesses in town. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that? Pine Electric or something like that that's up on Kits Lane.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe they might be interested.
Yep.
So, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I don't see any hands up. Anybody else? Good. Okay. Okay, anybody from the council? Any member comment? Quiet. We good?
Yeah.
Covered everything?
Yeah, good.
All right, perfect. Pat, you waved. You waving by or you waving with your hand? You're on mute.
Okay, I was just looking at my phone while you were talking and I saw that you're working with the fire department to update emergency information from all the businesses in town,
Mhm.
which is a great thing. I don't think people realize that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information in our CAD system.
Right.
You know, when somebody dials 911 and it populates, you know, there's alerts in the CAD system, people that might have a medical issue,
Right.
weapons in the home, you know, just, you know, things that we have. And I don't think people really understand, you know, the amount of information for their protection.
Right.
So all
And
of
it's-
that stuff.
It's a collaboration between the fire department and
Yep.
you, and
Christmas.
Yep.
the Chamber of Commerce and
Yep.
But did they
maybe
decide on
CERT?
wearing pajamas,
I
or-
don't know whether people are aware
Maybe they do it
that
in the
there's a
afternoon.
community emergency response team
When
here
did
in
they decide?
Newington
Last
that
time
we help
it
as
was
first
like,
responders with
you know, with Misa and
fire
her
and the
kid, we were like,
police.
We don't know.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Anybody else?
Wasn't he coming in the afternoon?
Good. All right. Hey, thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, I'll get the minutes out. And as always, if you have a question, you need something, feel free to send me an email anytime and I'll get back to you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you
Now
so
I'm
much.
waving.
Hi, thank you.
Mm.
All right.